Welcome, everybody.
Hey, Pablo, how's it going?
It's going well. Hey, we just got back from Chi-Town or Chicago.
Windy City.
Windy City.
Yeah.
So we were at an international education technology conference.
ISTE.
ISTE, as it's known. And we had a good time there.
Yeah, lots of learning, lots of good connections with people from all over the place.
And when we went there, we had a goal to actually interview a few people about a few different topics. So today we're going to bring you the topic of best memory from school.
Yeah.
Since it is summer and some people or a lot of teachers are off right now, kind of with their families and such. And since this was an area or group all banded together to talk about technology in education, we thought this was a perfect forum or perfect area to get that information out and find out what people are thinking. Yeah,
and we told the people when we interviewed them, they didn't have to make a point with their best memory. It was just their favorite memory. Like when they think about school and their happiest moment, what was it? So I think most of them then actually had a connection for themselves as educators and adults. So we'll have you listen for that as we go.
That's right.
But yeah, these are just stories of students and their memories. All right, so we are going to start with Bill SELAK, and he is the Director of Technology at Hillbrook School. And here's what he had to say about his favorite memory in school.
My favorite moment in school is third grade. Mrs. Gilkinson, who actually was one of the founding members of CUE. They used to have meetings at my elementary school, I've heard. Like one of the earlier conferences at Washington Elementary School in Glendora. So she was pushing things hard. And I remember we had an Apple IIc, and we had one of those carts with like the 80-pound TV that had the tip and would have crushed me as a small child, right? She wheels one of these in, and just having that in the room was like, oh my gosh. Having an Apple IIc in the room was like, dude, she took the Apple IIc and plugged it into the TV, and she was typing. And we were just like, what is happening? And what we were doing is we were making a Venn diagram of 3 different types of robots. Remember 80s robots? Like the Muppets reboot a few years ago, I had an 80s robot. We had these 80s robots that had a little remote control, those hardwired, and we had these and we could drive them. And all they did is like 2 miles an hour, 1 mile an hour, would go slowly, so slowly, and that's it. Just forward and back, and they did nothing. Like their eyes lit up. And so we had to do a Venn diagram. That was the third grade standard. But we're doing it with 3 80s robots, and she was taking notes on the TV using an Apple IIc. And like, our minds were blown in so many ways. Like, this was so far ahead of the curve. And so like, I still remember that now as an educator.
So the Apple IIe, wow, that's going back a little bit.
Or did he say the Apple IIc? Which I don't know. I don't know my numbers, but that would be 2 before the Apple IIe.
Yeah. So my connection is this. I remember when I brought in the first iPad, the iPad 1 with no first version with no camera, and I'm wondering if the kids had the same response when they opened this up first day of class and they got their Apple or their iPads for the first time. What were they thinking? Were they feeling the same way as Bill? Like that's something that really resonated with me. I don't know. I know they were excited and all, but I wonder. And that was whatever. Now that was 2000. 10. Sorry, that was 2010. So that was 8 years ago.
Yeah,
8 years ago when that happened. So wonder where those kids are and if they're ever going to be asked that same question.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But the excitement's there.
One of my connections was, for me, when we did hands-on science, those were those moments of awe and wonder and like, whoa, I can't believe we get to pour chemicals and light stuff on fire or whatever. So like those moments that spark curiosity, like for Bill, it was technology and that sort of set in his mind, hey, this is possible in the classroom. For me, it was like playing with chemicals and seeing scientific reactions. Now, unfortunately, we didn't get a whole lot of that. So I can like count them on, probably both hands through many years of school when I got those hands-on science experiences. But if you engage students like that, like you're actually putting a device in their hand, which is revolutionary. I mean, it's taking the device and giving it to them and say, go see what you can do.
And at the time, I'm just wondering, at the time, was it as revolutionary as maybe that? I think it has a semblance of that, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm curious. I guess I'm just sitting here thinking about it. But my favorite memory isn't something as a tool. It's more of an event, or two things that stand out: going to Yosemite and going to
with school.
Yosemite was when I was in 7th grade. Circle View. It was middle school or junior high, and then in 8th grade we went at a different school. We went to Catalina Island. And
very cool. Yeah.
Those were just really good times. And I get you're out of the classroom, but we were learning. I remember learning about, California geography and things of that nature. Yeah. And we talk about Yosemite a lot, and just being there. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Just in awe. Yeah. And then swimming with fish in Catalina was cool. Totally cool. Snorkeling, that was the first time I'd ever been in the water in that way. Yeah. That was awesome.
Yeah. I went as a camp counselor after I graduated college. Okay. That wowed me. Yeah. So can you imagine that experience as a student, getting able to snorkel and see the fish up close like that? Yeah. That's awesome.
So thank you, Bill.
Yeah, thanks, Bill.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And next up, we're going to hear a memory from DIANE, Maine.
Director of Learning Innovation Design in Santa Clara.
Awesome. So here's what she had to say about her favorite memory in school.
I think most of my best memories from school were my involvement in like music and theater. So I was in band, and I was in a few shows and stuff. And I've done music and theater a little bit outside of school as an adult. And that's because like you learn, and this is going to be true of many extracurriculars or hands-on type things. You learn so much through those activities, and it's also social, and it's also, you're part of a team, you're part of a group, and you have that feeling of, I belong here, right? And I think that, when teachers or administrators say like, well, if you can't get these grades or keep these grades, you can't do that thing, like play a sport or be in that thing, they really kind of shortchange, like some kids, that's what they're coming to school for. And I was a good student, but that is what I was coming to school for. Like, I could do the school game and get the good grades, and that was fine. But notice how none of my best memories are from classes. It's not that I have bad memories, it's that my life was about those performing arts things that I was involved in. And I do have some great memories from school. I could think of different things from different classes, but what was I about in high school? I was about those things. And it was because I was with my friends. I was an important part of something that required all of us. And I wanted to be there. It's something I chose to do. And it was the thing that kept me coming to school every day. I would get up extra early for band practice in the morning, and I'd be there late at night for theater. And it was awesome. And I learned a ton. I mean, I can get up and be in front of people, and I talk in front of hundreds or thousands of people. Doesn't freak me out, because I've performed in front of people. I've made mistakes in front of people. That's something that I've used. I have not used the quadratic formula, except for when I was teaching my son, when he was taking algebra. So I do use all the things I learned, but like that's the thing that helps me every day. And so we need to, this is a little preachy, but because you didn't ask, but we need to make sure that we help kids find that thing that helps them want to come to school every day and that motivates them. And we can't take it away when their grades aren't doing well. We have to say, what can I do to help you be able to stay in this and put the energy towards this, but also do the thing that you're supposed to be doing over here. So, I mean, that's to me what my best memories are.
So for me, basketball, surprisly, I'm sure, if you've been listening to this program at all, kept me in school, kept me going anyways. I wasn't the worst school, of all time, or worst student of all time, but nonetheless, basketball, and I can resonate with that. I know there are a lot of kids who are in it for their extracurricular activities and the things that they love to go to school for.
Yeah. And I think of, I was a student who was attached to school, and I liked school, and I had those kinds of supports at home. My parents wanted me to do, well in my classes. However, if you've ever been around drama, performing arts, band, like those stand out to me as life-changing experiences for students. I've just watched as an educator from the sidelines, the students that I had who are in drama. Oh my gosh, it's like a religion for them. It really does fill their lives with meaning. And I had that as an athlete like you. I did, like, probably sports meant actually probably more to me than my studies. But we have to provide those opportunities for students to get connected to school. We just have to do it.
We do. And we talked about this in an earlier podcast about having memorable moments. And that was kind of the basis for this question. What was memorable to you in school? And I just have a feeling inside that most people that we ask this question, it's not going to be something very or directly connected to our main academic subjects. That's just my first thought.
Yeah.
We'll see how this goes as we kind of continue and carry this out.
Yeah. All right, and our next interview is going to be from Brian Smith, and so Brian is an educator out of Texas, and he's an instructional leader down there in all types of digital and blended learning. And here is what he had to say about his best memory in school.
My best memory in school is third grade, actually. My teacher, Miss Purdue. I went to a school where there's only 3 African Americans there. That was me and my 2 sisters. And it was very, very difficult. I mean, besides the name calling and the racial slurs and things of that nature, I was very passionate about sports. And kickball was the thing back then. And I could kick the stank out of a ball, but they wouldn't let me play. They would not let me play. So what I would start doing was I would take the ball and I'll go on the side and I'll throw it up in the air and I would kick it as far as possible and listen to the reaction. I would do this every single day and they would see how far the ball actually traveled. It forced them to say, okay, we want this dude on our team. But guess what I would do? I would go over there where the girls were jumping rope and play jacks, and I would join their particular games. That's what I did. My Miss Purdue was watching me the entire time. She says, you do not have to antagonize them because you already know that you can compete. You know, you can't let what they're saying about you determine how you're going to manage your own self and show what you're able to do. You don't do it just to do it for spiteful purposes. Do it because you're good. Changed my life. As a third grader. I began to realize I can compete just by being myself. And I did it.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, awesome story, Brian. What really resonates with me is just meeting Brian at ISTE and being around him is he's out there making a positive difference, as all our educator guests are, and he's live streaming and interviewing people and helping share their story through something called #PassTheScopeEDU. Check that out if you get a chance. It was my first time being around this movement where we're using live streaming to share professional learning for people who can't access it. But this message of empowerment of like, I didn't have to be a spiteful person. And this teacher just said, hey, son, there's a different way. That's great. I mean, that's the power of an educator is to, like he said, he's like, it changed my life as a third grader.
Yeah. I mean, I like to play kickball too. I don't think I was that good, but
I was not.
Yeah, and it kind of it does suck not being able to play a game that you want to play. Something's kind of taken away from you, and it's not your fault, right? And so how do we look at today's student and still find those kids that are kind of being singled out? I think we as teachers and educators need to help and support and kind of be a little bit more thoughtful about that and just engaged in what's happening outside of the classroom.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was that educator had that open eye and open mind. And there are probably, a dozen different ways to handle it. But I think knowing what she knew about Brian, she said, if I plant the seed with Brian, Brian will handle it on his own. And so, but it was her getting involved with that word to Brian about like stand up and compete. So,
absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you to Bill, Diane, and Brian. We appreciate you answering our first question on how what your best memory was from school.
Yeah.
I think my memory's going.
Yeah, it was great to connect with people at ISTE.
It was.
Actually, we have a social media shout out to wrap up this episode. And so LA Parent Magazine has been interacting with us a little bit on Instagram, which is cool. And we checked out their content, and so it's a Los Angeles magazine for parents of what to do with kids, especially when you have them for the summer. So our shout out is as a teacher, as an educator, think to yourself, maybe you're home with kids, your own children. Yeah. Think of those resources like LA Parent Magazine, where you can get ideas of what to do. If you're not in the LA area, look for Parent Magazine resources for your own children and family. However, getting familiar with those resources can help you be a resource to parents when you return to school in the fall.
That's awesome. Yeah. So go follow LA Parent Magazine on Twitter and on Instagram.
Yep.
And just to close out, this was basically a part 1 of a 3-part series where we asked questions of these same educators, and we have some other educators that are now joining us with some follow-up questions as well. So on our next programming, you'll see the continued interviews from these educators from ISTE.
Yeah, conversations from ISTEs.
Yeah, that sounds good. Maybe is that what we're calling it? We don't even. That could be the name. Well, thank you everybody for listening, and until next time.
Yeah,
we'll see ya.
Peace.